2023 February 7, Tuesday. Price debacle. More effective measures needed to tamp down soaring utility bills and inflation. Soaring energy bills, led by gas and electricity, are hitting South Korean households, already settled with rising interest rates and stubbornly high inflation that erode into disposable income amid few signs of an economic recovery. The latest energy price figures released Sunday by the Korean Statistical Information Service shows how big increases have been made for the prices of essential utilities such as gas and electricity in a year, and is an indicator of how painful it is for Koreans to tighten their belts to pay for rising bills. The Public Utility Price Index, calculated based on the Consumer Price Index, that is considered an inflation barometer, logged 135.75 points in January, up 31.7% from a year earlier. The January index marks the highest increase in monthly energy prices since April 1998, when the country was in the midst of the Asian financial crisis. Electricity prices jumped 29.5% on year in January, while gas and heating prices climbed 36.2% and 34%, respectively, during the same period. The mix of electricity, gas, and heating price hikes is already translating to shutdowns in certain businesses that have so far relied on relatively affordable utility bills. A growing number of public bathhouses are struggling to pay for soaring heating bills that threaten to wipe out their profits. Some public bathhouses have already shuttered due to high energy bills, local media outlets reported. Internet cafes are also hit by the burdensome increases in electricity rates. Internet cafe owners complain that deficits are only increasing even though they are sacking part-time workers and raising hourly rates for customers. In a survey of 1,811 small business operators, 85.1% of respondents said their revenue declined and 99% said high energy bills have placed burdens on their businesses. The Korean Federation of Micro Enterprise said Friday. Faced with continued hikes in energy rates, 8.1% said they have considered shutting down their businesses or suspending operations until prices become more stable. But the upward trend of utility prices is far from over. The state-run Korea Electric Power Corporation raised the electricity rate by 9.5% last month, compared with the previous quarter. Korea Gas Corporation paused the gas rate in the first quarter amid a flood of complaints from households and companies who saw their heating bills skyrocket, but it's likely to raise it again as early as April. Korea Gas Corporation and government officials claim that gas price hikes are inevitable in consideration of the state-run company's snowballing operating deficit that stemmed largely from the higher international prices of liquefied natural gas. Given high utility bills and price hikes in other key items, it is hardly surprising that the country's consumer prices, a key gauge of inflation, rose 5.2% last month from a year earlier, according to the data released by Statistics Korea on Thursday. Inflation is certainly slowing down after it peaked at 6.3% in July last year, but it still stayed above 5% for the ninth straight month in January, far higher than the Bank of Korea's inflation target of 2%. Some experts have raised questions about whether the Bank of Korea should remain more vigilant about inflation risk going forward. On January 13, the central bank raised its policy interest rate by 25 basis points to 3.5% without making a reference to the need for more interest rate hikes. This sparked speculation that the rate hike campaign might have ended, but it remains to be seen whether the central bank can keep the rate unchanged in the coming months. Last week, the U.S. Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.25 percentage point to a target range between 4.5% and 4.75%. As a result, the interest gap between the two nations is now 1.25 percentage points, and it may widen further if the Fed opts for more hikes. The interest rate gap, if left untouched, could raise volatility regarding capital flight and the Korean currency. Given the pernicious impact of soaring energy bills and high interest rates, policymakers should consider drawing up more effective policy measures to help households and companies while preventing utility price hikes from going overboard.